Greetings, my name is Onaje Cunningham. I'm currently a senior here at Lincoln University, majoring in biology and minoring in business. I worked on a project entitled Addressing Sustainability Through Lincoln University's Community Garden and Social Engagement. I worked on this with my faculty mentor, Dr. Anna Hall. So first, I would like to introduce food sustainability. That entails having a viable food production, which means that people within the community will have access to a constant food source. This is important because they will not have to rely on transportation to go and get their food, but it'll be right inside of their own community. It also entails growing organic foods. This is important because you're not using pesticides that can be harmful for the environment and can impact different ecosystems. It also entails eating what's in season. Not only will you have better tasting food, but you'll also be supporting local farmers and really boosting the local economy. It also entails having culturally appropriate foods. So that means when you focus on what you want to grow, you're actually thinking about what can people actually bring into their diets? What is something that they constantly eat so that you're not growing random foods, but you're growing things that people will actually consume. Now I like to kind of contrast the difference between eating locally and big industry. So if you're eating locally, there's a shorter distance from farm to table. And what this means is from the time that you harvest to the time that you're eating the different produce that you have, there's less transportation. This is important because not only are you reducing the amount of fossil fuels that you're burning for transportation, which you would often see in big industry, but you're also reducing the amount of plastic that is used to store and carry these different produces. And by reducing the amount of plastic, you're reducing the amount of trash that takes several years to decompose. You're also benefiting the local economy when you eat locally. This is important because you're supporting your local farmers, and as opposed to this money going to different corporations, this money is actually being saved within the community. By eating locally, you're also targeting food deserts. So a lot of times you'll see that poorer communities will not have access to food sources and they will have to go and rely on other corporations, bigger corporations for their food sources. But by having local food, you'll see that people within the community have access to a direct food source and it'll be beneficial. Now, the big industry, as talked about earlier, they rely on more airplanes and cars and trucks to transport their food. So this results in more burning of fossil fuels. They also use pesticides that affect the surrounding ecosystems. And then they also focus on the quantity over the quality of their produce. This led to the community garden that was created about 5 years ago at Lincoln University. And the main goal of this garden was to teach students how to grow their own foods in their communities. So hopefully they would be able to learn how to grow these different produces and bring it back to their own communities back home. So whether you lived in a suburban or an urban community, you'll be able to take what you learn and be able to apply that to some aspect in your own communities. So if you had a lot of land, you can have like a large garden. But if you lived in a city, you could still use a windowsill to grow different herbs such as thyme or mint to really support your own household. So in this garden, students have been able to grow a variety of different produce, which is actually really exciting. So we've been able to harvest cucumbers, tomatoes, carrots, a variety of different herbs such as mint, basil, thyme. And this is just really exciting because you can see that this garden supports a big variety of produce. So where I came in specifically is I wanted to address three different questions. First, what do students want to eat? Two, how can we use social media to raise awareness about sustainability? And this is important because social media, a lot of students use, but they're not really aware of the different sustainability initiatives that we have on campus. So I wanted to marry sustainability and social media together to raise the awareness of the different initiatives that we have on campus. And thirdly, we wanted to figure out how can we get more students engaged on campus. So we attacked this in four different ways. So first, we partnered with Thompson Hospitality, which is our food services program on campus. We also conducted a student survey where we asked individuals what exactly they would like to see in the garden and how interested they would be in participating in these different sustainability initiatives. We also wanted to educate students about the garden via social media. And lastly, we engaged students with hands-on experiences that we'll talk about later. So the results from the survey really suggested that students heavily requested carrots, tomatoes, and fruits. And the one thing about this survey that is kind of something we would like look to improve in the future is that it was a small sample size. This sample size was 20 out of a population of 2,000 students. And so this is only about 1% of our total population. And in the future, we would want to be having more inclusive survey. So that way we're having a more variety, we're capturing a greater variety of students' interests. So we were also able to partner with Thompson Hospitality to educate students via social media. And so we created 2 separate videos with Thompson Hospitality. In the first video, we focused on creating sweet potato pies from sweet potatoes grown in our own garden. And so this was exciting because a big part of African American culture is sweet potato pies. So being able to see how sweet potatoes that we produce in the garden can be incorporated into our own culture was a really cool aspect for students to see. And several hundred students actually saw that video. Secondly, we created a video where we talked about the art of growing your own food. And this was important because we were able to educate students about the fact that we even have a garden and the different sustainability initiatives that we have on campus, and also just the importance of growing your own organic foods. We also worked with the Student Senate to increase visibility via social media. So every time we had a event, we made sure that we posted it on our Instagram page, just to make sure that students were up to date on the different initiatives that we had on campus. We also created a video, the Lincoln University's Sustainability Initiatives video, where we not only introduced the garden and the different initiatives that are going on with the community garden, but we also introduced the recycling program that we have on campus. So that way students could be aware, although we were virtual, we want to make sure that students were engaged in what's going on campus. On Earth Day, we also collaborated with Chester County Food Bank and Thompson Hospitality to make sure we had engaging activities. So one thing that we did was we had a campus cleanup where we picked up recyclables or other waste on campus. And another thing we did was a garden give back. So at this give back, we planted carrots, blueberries, and other produce with the help of students. And what was cool about this is that we actually used suggestions from the survey to make sure that we incorporated into our garden. So people were actually interested because these are things that they actually wanted to see in the garden. Another thing about this day is that students were able to learn how to grow their own produce back home, and hopefully they would be able to take the techniques they learned and bring it back to their own communities. We also met with Congresswoman Chrissy Houlihan, which was exciting, and we also got to increase our visibility on campus. So some conclusions from this experiment were we were able to expand our garden, we were able to increase our student engagement, and we were able to utilize social media throughout the pandemic. This was really important in my view of capturing our student engagement because with people back home, we were able to make sure that they were still involved by utilizing social media and staying connected. We also collaborated with Thompson Hospitality, surveyed students for their input, and we did face challenges with becoming a vendor. Long-term goal is we want to make sure that we're bringing the food that we grow in our garden to Thompson Hospitality. So we're eliminating some of the transportation. But one thing that we would have to do is increase the size of our garden and make sure it's more sustainable for their meals. And lastly, we were able to strengthen our Lincoln community because as you saw, there was politicians, we had Lincoln faculty, administrators, staff, students, all participating in this project, supporting one initiative. So in the future, we'll like to host a waste audit, which is we will pick one day out of the week and we'll collect all the trash from the cafeteria. And then we'll sort it from food waste, actual waste, or recyclables to see how we can reduce the amount of trash going to landfills and reduce our impact that we're having on the environment. We'll also conduct a larger survey, expand the garden, focus on bringing the farm from farm to table, making sure that the produce goes to the Thompson Hospitality Food Services, and lastly, increase our social media presence. I would like to thank Dr. Hall for this opportunity, Ms. Nafisa Bush and Thompson Hospitality, the LU Fields Grant from NSF, the Chester County Food Bank, and the Student Senate Council of Dining Services. Thank you for listening,